Hello and welcome to the last show of our 19th season. I guess it's probably appropriate that for this show we have as an interview for you today one of our harder working volunteers. You've heard us go on for years about Atlantic Motorsport Park and how it's owned by us, operated by us, and has to be maintained by us too. That means raising funds to provide for the equipment that we need and the materials that we need, the supplies. And John Kempster of Bedford, Nova Scotia is one of these people. Not only will you find him out at the track, hard at work on a regular work party weekend, but he's also very busy organizing car shows and displays, getting things together for the raffling of tickets, organizing people, and just in general, a real hard worker and very much an enthusiast too. Here's John to give you an idea of his motorcycling background and why he does what he does for AMP. So John Kempster here to tell us all about racing at Atlantic Motorsport Park on 2 wheels instead of 4 wheels. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come and see us. It's just a little busy because of work, not because of racing at this time of year, but how have you been doing at AMP on your bike?
Well, Debbie, it was an interesting year. I managed to compete in a number of events, and I also managed to crash in the pits, which sort of put me out of the last part of the season, but nonetheless, it was fun for the most part.
The crashing in the pits sounds like fun.
It was an exciting season for me. I got to work a lot more with doing some of the organizational and fundraising things with the club, and my efforts looked good to me at the end of the season, so I was encouraged by that, and I hope that we can have a good season again next year.
Well, it certainly wasn't your first year at AMP. How long have you been racing up there?
No, I've been both in the pits and racing at AMP since 1984, and that was sort of the end of a little hiatus I took from racing. I was involved with racing earlier, as far back as 1966, but I'm dating myself now when I tell that story.
Oh, no, that's okay. There are lots of people who remember those years. Trust me.
I've enjoyed all of the time I've spent at AMP. I think it's a really good local track, and it's the kind of track that teaches the young rider how to be skilled and careful. Makes him a better rider on potentially any track in North America. And that's one of the real advantages that we have here. Only 60 miles, or not even 60 miles from Halifax. You know, you can get into one of the best training grounds for racing in all of Canada. I think it's great. And
probably not only for racing, but control of your bike on the street as well. You have rider schools that we'll get into in a little bit. I think that can offer an awful lot of insight into your own ability and your bike's ability as well. A combined effort, which is always required on 2 wheels. But are you interested in or involved with any of the rider schools that they conduct up there?
Well, I personally have not been involved very much in the rider schools. Of course, I go out to make sure that if anybody needs a hand with pointing out items of safety and how to properly prepare a motorcycle for the racetrack, that seems to be something that I contribute to the schools anyway. There have been moments when some less than safe machinery gets out on the track, and if it's not safe on the track, it's not safe on the street either. Okay. So sometimes these people, the students are coming to learn about riding a motorcycle competently, safely, learn lessons that they didn't anticipate. Sometimes the preparation of the machine is so important.
A little bit more than they had fathomed and expected.
Well, experience is a great teacher.
Yeah. And they can gain from your experience and lots of others too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been riding, I guess, for 26 years, and I still have use of all arms and legs and hands, so I must be doing some of the necessary things properly.
Yes, that would prove you out, yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm crash-proof, but I think that my consciousness with the schools, particularly anyway, is on safety, and I'd like to see more and more of the safety aspect of the motorcycle portrayed, not just by our racing schools, but by all of the exposure that we have from the racetrack with regard to motorcycles, period.
Well, it is important to you. If you're not going to finish the race, you can't win it for sure. So to be safe and to be smooth and consistent and then fast, and then you'll win.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to finish to win.
So what kind of a bike do you race? What is your particular class?
Well, I'm currently involved in racing in the gentleman's class, which is our class for sort of run what you brung. It's essentially it's a class that allows you to race without spending a fortune every weekend, and permits you to have a lot of fun as well.
It's quite a large class, too. It's really growing.
It's growing quite well. Many of our older experts and riders who've had some experience in the past, but have felt that racing for national points was just a bit too challenging to their budget, have decided that they still would like to race, and so they enter the gentlemen's events. It's not something we pay or have big trophies for or that sort of thing. It's sort of a come and have fun class, and it's a large growing field. I would anticipate that in 1992 that we'll have to increase the number of races and split the size of the field by having classes in the gentlemen's event.
What a terrible problem. Isn't that something? Good for you. Well, there's almost something for everybody and every talent level available during one of your bike race days. You have, how many classes would you normally run on a regular day?
Well, on a full race weekend or full race day, we would have 4 expert classes, we would have 4 junior classes, we would have vintage racing, and we would also have 2 gentlemen's races. So it's a significant number of race events, and it allows a pretty wide window of the motorcycle from 250 cc's all the way to the superbikes at the 750 cc level in the production competition, and in the gentleman's class and in the vintage class, the window is wide open, and the gentleman's class doesn't have any limitations. The vintage class is, of course, a lot more complicated, but at the same point in time, pretty much open.
And probably a lot of people competing in different classes all on the same day, though. Could your vintage bike and you be considered a gentleman for the gentleman's class?
Absolutely. There's you can mix and match your classes, so to speak, with your motorcycle. Common production bikes can also run in what we call super sport events, and in the superbike events. Often you'll see a person who's having a very good season with a motorcycle in the 600cc class will compete in the 750 class, simply because he's running very well, and it's an opportunity for him to score more points, collect a few bonus bucks from the manufacturer as far as contingency dollars goes.
Get a little more of that experience under his belt, too.
Absolutely, develop the experience. A lot of fellows are willing to involve themselves a great deal just to develop their skills so that they can become more accomplished.
Now, if you want to race a motorcycle at a road race circuit in Eastern Canada, it's through the Atlantic Motorcycle Competition Riders Association, and it's at Atlantic Motorsport Park.
Exactly.
There's no other races held anywhere else within the Atlantic region outside of that area.
No, for road racing, we are the Atlantic region track.
Well, it'd be easy to find then. If you wanted to get involved, there's only one place you can go and one group you can join. Sounds like fun.
That's basically it. And we have 2 schools a year to make it easy for anybody that wants to start something that they haven't tried before. And even if the only thing that you want to do on a school day is to come out, develop some understanding of safety, familiarity with your motorcycle, and see what it's like to try to go fast without the police chasing you and without worrying about falling off and that sort of thing. Although it's not impossible, that you're under the safest circumstances for going fast. Most people don't seem to understand that really if you're taking all of the right precautions with regard to equipment, if you're on a controlled track with proper runoff areas and corner marshals and medical facilities and a little bit of training from proper and experienced teachers, you can go quite fast, have a great deal of fun, and it's very safe.
And very easy on the machine?
Yeah, it can. Very easy on the machine. It's up to you. There's a point at which you can go too fast, and you can just, we call it driving over your head, and I'm sure that you see that in car racing as well.
It can happen anywhere. Yeah. Happen on the street.
But you learn and develop, and for a lot of guys, it's the fun way to find out about motorcycling.
Now, depending on how deep an involvement you want to get, give us an idea of some of the costs involved, not only expenditures, but some of the paybacks to contingency funds and things available.
Well, the motorcycle manufacturers pay contingency dollars to production and superbike classes for people running basically box stock machines. These machines have modifications that are allowed in the very slightest areas. For instance, fork oil and removing of lights and that kind of thing. So basically only things that are designed to improve the safety of the machine. You must be on DOT street legal tires. And in these production classes, the manufacturers pay contingency dollars as high as $300 for first place, and $250 for second, down to $100, $50, depending upon the class. But the first three places generally can earn dollars, and somebody who is competitive in an afternoon could conceivably win in a production class, a super sport class, and a superbike class. It's possible for him to have an $800 or $900 payday, which would cover the expenses of racing. If you are racing at that level, you're probably going to spend $300 or $400 in tires for that weekend. Necessary fuel, and of course keeping people happy in the pits if you need help in the pits, and good mechanics need to be fed and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a lot of people to keep
So there are contingent things to worry about, race registration and the costs of any event that's going to consume any amount of your time. I don't think anybody can do anything that spans a whole weekend without spending money.
Nope, that's right.
And some of those things are just normal, but the motorcycle itself can go from those extremes where you're spending $1,000 for a weekend, for instance, and you can go all the way down to the gentleman's class, where a fellow could campaign a motorcycle for probably under $100 for the weekend. I know I've had a couple of weekends where I spent less than $100 to race.
That's very civilized, yeah.
No, I think it's quite civilized.
And it keeps you involved with that group of people, and they're a very good group of people. They're all very competitive and fine sportsmen themselves.
Most of the time, they're pretty enthusiastic and sportsmanlike, I would say. Yeah.
That's always nice. Now, the costs, of course, of running at Atlantic Motorsport Park don't only consist of AMCRA registration to join the club, membership fees, and of course the entry fees on a race day basis, which aren't very much, but the time and labor involved in keeping that track running, because as we've mentioned before about AMP, we own AMP. I think it's still fairly unique in being that kind of a facility where the users of the track are also the owners of the track, which is great, but we have to do all the work of it, and it needs to be done. And tell us about the fundraising efforts that you have done this past year to raise some money for these much-needed improvements.
Well, last year, the Atlantic Canada Honda dealers donated a prize to us that we were able to sell tickets on, and the prize was 300 TRX four-wheel drive, which is a fine off-road unit, and that was given to us so that we could raise funds for our paving fund. And we sold a considerable number of tickets. I don't remember the total figures that we sold, but we were able to raise several $1,000s with the sales of these tickets. We had mall displays and car show displays, and we got a lot of people to buy a ticket hoping that they would win, and somebody did win. A fellow from Mount Uniac won the prize. I can't remember his name right at the moment.
I was just trying to think of that too. I do know, though, because we had mentioned it on the show one time. It was drawn for
on August the August 4th weekend.
That's
was the scheduled draw date. And we called him right from the track on my cellular phone, and I think he was out at the time. But he was very pleased to have won.
Oh, that kind of a message to come home to,
won the four-track. And again, we still need to raise money for this coming year. We're currently in a situation where we have approximately 500 feet of the racetrack ripped up. And we'll need about $25,000 to replace the asphalt that we've removed from that location. And that's a must before we go racing this year. We do have some of the funds on hand, but we'll need to raise some before April the 1st.
Well, that's Jack Canfield's very unique style, of course, is to rip up the paving surface, and now you can't go racing. You have to do something about it, so the gun is to the head.
Exactly.
And it worked. See, he did it last year. We fell for it then. We've fallen for it again.
Yeah, it's an unusual type of incentive. I guess we're going to have to work towards a a known goal anyway.
Well, it is always nice to have that kind of a goal. And of course, last year I think the Honda dealers or Honda itself was able to put together a motorcycle for us. We raffled off those tickets as well and had raised some money for 1990. So Honda's been very good to us in that respect. Been very appreciative of that.
You know, I can't say too much that's good about what Honda has done over the past couple of years. I think if all of the manufacturers had the kind of supportive and enthusiastic attitude that Honda does with regard to motor racing in general, it would be wonderful.
Well, the money they spend, I mean, not only at advertising in the track and donating things that we can sell tickets on, but the contingency money as well as Suzuki and Yamaha, of course, they're all involved with that. But you're right, we're going to have to look at another fundraising effort now for 91 because we don't want to put off-road tires.
No, we will
on
race.
the vehicle.
We will definitely be racing this year. If I have anything to say about it with regard to the fundraising, we'll definitely be racing this year. I'm looking forward to a full season.
Well, you were one of our winners at our recent AGM that I was making so much mention of in our last show. We had a combined AGM with your people and the car people as well, and you were a big winner there. Congratulations. You sold lots of tickets, thousands of tickets, won a Honda generator and a lovely big award, a lovely trophy. The picture should come out soon. We hope that they develop well.
Oh, I hope so, too.
But you really did work hard on that. You were one of the main driving forces around getting a lovely display set up and taking it to all of the different malls, of course, to the car show, and making it available to just be viewed by the public so they can see what they'd be getting into.
Well, I hope that we can have as much success with our next fundraising drive, whatever it may be. We may be using smaller prizes. We may be able to encourage somebody to sponsor us by supplying us a prize of some kind.
Yeah, of course, that's always the goal, to spend as little of that money to be able to vote as much of the income, I guess. We should stay on actual improvements to the track.
Exactly. We need to raise money, and that's the must. And this will probably be ongoing for several years to come. We can't just anticipate that what we've done this year will be enough to keep the track in good shape. It was built in 1974, so it's starting to show wear and tear at the years. The
That's right.
changes of the terrain have created erosion effects and so on. When we built the track in 1974, we didn't have the hindsight that we have today about how to properly construct certain areas for drainage and so on. So it was a little bit done in the dark.
And we've always had the problem of money. I mean, if something could be built, it would only be built of wood because the funds not being there to build it of concrete. It was built of wood, and that just doesn't last. And it's little efforts. Like, I know we've sat around long enough hoping for a big sugar daddy to come down from Ontario and give us lots of the, $250,000 we need to repave the track. But things like your T-shirt that you're wearing, something that a fundraising campaign like that for the Race National round number 4. This was the one we had this last year, 1991 at AMP.
Exactly. The actual production of the T-shirt was taken on by a club member. And he said, well, I'll do what I can to raise funds. I will actually pay for the production of these T-shirts. And when my costs are covered from the sales, the remaining dollars will go into the paving fund.
And it all adds up.
Oh, absolutely.
Selling hats and caps and T-shirts, and we've been doing that for a while. But all those little efforts combined to giving us a little more money that we can put in that pot to pave that track.
There it is.
And you have to have the right physique for it, too, John, too.
I think it's a large shirt, so I'm not quite the large fella to fill it.
You're doing a good job. But things like that, and of course, it's easily recognizable. Certainly, that's one of the more colorful ones we've seen around. But we were selling the bright neon color hats for a while there, and it was easy to spot an AMP fund improvement supporter. Almost too easy.
Like flags, yeah. Well, I hope we can continue on with at least the way we are, if not with continued improvement in our fundraising.
There seems to be going that route, though. I know that. Of course, the car end is growing with the help of the Moose Grand Prix. It's unfortunate it can't be held at AMP, but all of the things that are going on certainly mean that facility is available down the road in case something happens, and it doesn't happen in Halifax and doesn't happen on another street somewhere else in the Atlantic region. AMP is there and would be ready to run that kind of an event. And your Race National, your people are planning on having another one for 92.
Yeah, we expect to have a Race National event in July sometime this year. Hopefully the track will be all ready.
By July? Oh, yes,
By July.
I think so.
And I would anticipate with the changes that we're making to the track now, added safety features and so on, that we'll see the lap record fall, as we have virtually every year. The experts are a little quicker, the tires are a little stickier, the engines produce a little more horsepower, and the track record falls. Hopefully it'll be a local guy that breaks the record.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, this Castrol Motor Plan series that you see on TV quite a bit at the time, every second or third Saturday, it seems you can tune into something at Shannonville or Mont Tremblant or something. But a few weeks ago, there was one televised from our racetrack, Atlantic Motorsport Park. And you don't have to wait to see that big nationally televised race every July. You can come up just about any bike race weekend and see the Donald, the Monroes and the Ramseys and all of the people who are placing so well anywhere they go.
Exactly. If you could see the marvelous footage of the national that was taken from an on-bike camera in the superbike race, Johnny Ramsey was just a wonder to behold. And all you got to see of him was the back of his leathers and the back wheel of the motorcycle. Although he was outpowered by the bike carrying the camera, the bike carrying the camera could in no way intimidate him or get around him, for that matter. And Johnny Ramsey's out there racing with us every regional race weekend.
Yes, and that last one with a broken collarbone, too. I mean, the man's almost unstoppable and fast no matter what condition he and the bike might be in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don Monroe in the 600cc class in the National was a runaway winner.
Yeah.
Local
We've got the
racer.
talent.
These are the fellows that you're going to see every race weekend that you come up there. If you want to see the quality of racing that you get to see on a national event on television, go to AMP.
That's right. It's
Because
there.
the AMCA crew will put that kind of a show on for you every time.
So if anybody wanted to get involved with AMCA, how can they? Is there a contact person or number, or keep looking in the classifieds for next year's Rider School date?
Well, we have a post office box. It's Post Office Box 17 in Armdale, and that's the Atlantic Motorcycle Racers Association. You can find us that way, or you can go to any motorcycle shop.
Yes, of course.
And they will.
They're all involved.
Any motorcycle shop will give you an application form for AMCA membership, and you can probably pick up an application form for riding school at any of the motorcycle shops as well.
Because the calendar has been set or is in the process of being set?
The calendar is
We'll
in the
know
process of being established for the year right now. Of course, some of those dates may be tentative at the beginning of the year, depending upon whether or not we actually have 500 feet of asphalt that we don't have now.
Well, we're going to assume the best. And
Oh, naturally. We did it last year. We'll do it this year.
it worked once. Well, thank you very much, John. I wish you continued success not only in the gentleman's class, but in your fundraising efforts, because of people like you, we get to play up there.
Thanks, Debbie.
We appreciate it. Here we have a shot for you, John, and the Bat Cycle. Make sure you look them up at local car and bike shows. Won't be too hard to find, actually. It's pretty bright yellow. Thanks a lot, John. All the hard work that he has given us, and of course lots of other volunteers, and it's once again this time of year to thank all of those volunteers. This too is an effort, a volunteer effort, much like AMP and all of the other routes that we seem to be able to take with both the car and motorcycle clubs. All a volunteer effort, and I'd like to take a few minutes to thank those people who do help us out in this front. Michael and Judy Edwards, our Halifax Grand Prix crew. They're the people who come out and help lug cameras and all sorts of gear around to what is a very big area to cover for our Moosehead Grand Prix. Thank you very much, Michael and Judy. We have Graham Thompson, who's a studio camera person for us here, and all of our guests who, of course, are, as Tony said, the stars of our show. We'd like to thank Cynthia Tompkins. She is with Dartmouth Cable, and she carried our show again this year. Thank you very much, for the first time, I should say, this year. Our photo and race consultant, Mr. Terry Waterfield, always able to provide lots of interesting insights to camera techniques and the inside track on racing as well. And especially to Heather McCauley and Cindy Dover. We certainly wouldn't be able to do half of what we do without their cheerful help, always coming up with the time and the experience and the camera gears and making sure that the things work right for us or help us out when they don't. Thanks very much to Cindy and Heather. We have to say a special thank you, too, to Tony. Tony Edwards here is the man who puts most of the hours into this show, comes up with most of the ideas. I just come in here and sit and talk. Thanks to everyone who watches, too. I get lots of very positive comments from people coming by to say that they've caught the show, they found it interesting, and sat to watch it all the way through. It's great to hear that. Thanks very much. Okay, I guess what we have now is a final wrap-up. It's the Alan Parsons Project, and it's a review of scenes from this year and some of last year that you may not have already seen. Days are numbers. and welcome to another edition of Motorsport Atlantic, brought to you by the members of the Atlantic Sports Car Club. My name is Debbie Clark.